Welcome to Awesome Games We Playin'. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to be talking about today is World of Warcraft, aka WoW, which is celebrating its 20th birthday at the time of this video. So I only started playing World of Warcraft for the very first time this year in 2024 after putting it off for 20 years. Back in 2004, when I was a poor college student, the thought of having to pay for an MMO monthly was kind of daunting when I was barely making enough money to pay my rent and food with a part-time job and living by myself at the time. And I also didn't want to dedicate all of my time just to playing one game and having to schedule time to play with friends. But over time I started warming up to MMOs, since in 2006 I started playing Guild Wars, which was considered WoW Light, and I got pretty close to the end game of that, but I could never finish it. And in 2020 I started playing Dragon Quest X, in 2021 I started playing Final Fantasy XIV, and in 2022 I started Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XI, but dropped them for a while since I didn't play them that much. So as of now, the current MMOs I'm playing at the time of this video on WoW's 20th anniversary are Dragon Quest X, Final Fantasy XIV, and World of Warcraft. Since WoW was approaching 20 years old and I'm a huge fan of the Warcraft universe, I decided why not check WoW out. And I did reviews of Warcraft 1 and 2 back in the day, and I did enjoy 3, but Warcraft 2 is still my favorite all-time Blizzard game and one of my top favorite games of all time. And I wanted to know more about the Warcraft lore after what happens in Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne, so after 20 years I decided to download the WoW trial and realized how much I actually enjoyed it enough to finally pay for a subscription. And since I always preferred the orcs in the Warcraft series, I joined the Horde as an orc and decided on Hunter since I like long-range fighters in the Warcraft games, although in Dragon Quest X and Final Fantasy XIV I play as close-range DPS fighters. And I'm playing the retail version, and I love how archaic the game feels, and it definitely feels like a product of the early 2000s with its polygonal, blocky textures rather than the more realistic looking games we have today. And I'm pretty sure that many of you will agree with me that the early 2000s had a charm and aesthetic to its games and characters, as games were starting to enter the HD era. And it kind of does feel like I'm playing a solo third-person version of Warcraft 3. And it's great to just run around and do quests, and it's even cooler when you're fighting a big monster and some random person shows up and helps you defeat it, and you can also help other people. I mostly play MMO solo and sometimes team up with random people, and I've had some fun teaming up with random people for dungeons. Luckily, I haven't encountered jerks for now, just like when I played Guild Wars and I was first called a nooblet. Although I did hear that WoW does have a pretty toxic community, but luckily I'm staying out of it. And one of the main reasons for me playing WoW was to see where the Warcraft lore continues after Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne. And does WoW tell you what happens? Well... So one of the biggest criticisms of WoW is that it doesn't exactly do the best job of telling you the story if you're expecting a more linear story experience like Final Fantasy XIV and Dragon Quest X, and I always believed that one of Warcraft's strongest points was its story and its massive lore. I loved how ambiguous the story was in Warcraft 1 and 2, and how you kinda had to connect the dots on your own by reading the manuals and piecing the lore together. Warcraft 3 told the story in a more traditional and linear fashion, with cutscenes and dialogue with characters like Thrall, Grom Hellscream, Arthas, and more. And I started playing WoW in retail mode, and I started off as an orc in the Horde on the beginning ship and island, and then I went to the orc capital of Orgrimmar. I did a few quests, and then I took the Zeppelin to the Dragon Isles, and I thought I was still in the vanilla version of the game, and then I realized I was actually put into the Dragonflight expansion, which was released back in 2022, and I didn't even do the other expansions yet, like the Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Mists of Pandaria, and more. What? So it was kind of like starting off Final Fantasy XIV, but immediately starting off in Endwalker without having to go through a Realm Reborn, or starting Dragon Quest X and doing the beginning, then immediately going into version 6. So I had to watch a lot of WoW lore videos here on YouTube and look up wikis to understand what was going on, and feel free to explain things in the comments to me below because I'm still a WoW newbie. And I realized in order to get the full story experience I needed to start off in WoW Classic and finish everything in vanilla, then I can do the Burning Crusade and the other expansions in retail through Chromie time. So I played a bit of WoW Classic and I found it really old and archaic, and it took forever to level up my character, so I went back to retail. So I realized each of the expansions are more like standard standalone stories and are not required for you to go through them in order to understand what's going on. Although I read some of the expansions take place a year after another, or a few years after that, like the events of the Burning Crusade won't affect the story of Dragonflight and so on, or at least I think so, but please feel free to correct me in the comments below. I heard Blizzard did this to make the game more friendly for beginners so they could easily access endgame content without having to absorb 20 years of lore and expansions, and everything scales to your level. Right now, I am on the Dragonflight expansion on level 40, but I haven't done everything prior like the Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, and more. And from what I heard, Blizzard also retconned a lot of the story and even got rid of certain things from canon, so you do need to read a lot of the books, wikis, and watch videos in order to really understand the lore, since it's not really told that well in comparison to Warcraft 3. And while I'm disappointed that the lore and the story in WoW isn't explained that well in comparison to the regular Warcraft games, the gameplay still shines the most since I'm having a blast going around the world doing quests. I've also done some dungeons with random people and who have been pretty chill. I haven't joined a guild yet since I want to make my own guild, and I'm almost done with Dragonflight's story. Then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go do Chromie time and then start doing the Burning Crusade and the rest of the expansions in the correct order until I hit the War Within or whatever the current expansion is by the time I get there, because I heard another 2 expansions are coming. And since I have over 20 years of WoW content to get through, I wouldn't be surprised if the next 2 or 3 expansions come out by the time I'm finally caught up, since I'm balancing game dev and other games too. It took me about 6 months to catch up with Dragon Quest X's main story and about a year for Final Fantasy XIV. Since WoW has over 10 expansions, I have zero clue when I'll be caught up, but I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. And just like most MMOs, they're always more enjoyable with friends, but I've been having a blast playing solo, and whether you're a solo player or you want to play with friends, WoW has something for everyone. So do I recommend WoW nowadays with all the other MMO options out there? Well, if you're a fan of the Warcraft series like me, I definitely highly recommend it. Are you looking for an MMO with a story? Then I recommend Dragon Quest X or Final Fantasy XIV. Are you looking for an MMO to play with others and really do endgame content, dungeons, and raids with people? Then I would recommend WoW over all the others. So if you're a beginner to MMOs, I say start off with Dragon Quest X or Final Fantasy XIV first, and then try the WoW trial to see if you like it. And fortunately, I enjoyed the WoW trial enough in order to purchase a sub for the game after 20 years, and I definitely see myself playing WoW a lot in the future. So with that said, and as a massive Warcraft fan and MMO player, I highly recommend WoW and hope to see some of you in-game on the fields of Azeroth in the future. And this is Ryan signing out, and later gamers, for the Horde! Zug zug! Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to check out these other videos, and also make sure to follow me on social media and check out the official Battle Geek Plus website. Take care.